Will Brinson, senior NFL writer, CBSSports.com, Pick Six podcast moderator, joins us on the Adam Gold Show. So, first of all, were you surprised the Panthers did what they did, and do you think they gave up too much?
Yes, I was surprised. I say that. I was beating the drum that the Bears might not trade the first overall pick because it would be too difficult to find a team that would give them the proper compensation to move out of one, especially if they had to move as far down as 9. And then I forgot the Panthers were owned by David Tepper, that's on me. I'll take that L. I should have remembered that David Tepper will do anything to get the quarterback of his dreams.
Right.
Now they just have to pick the right one. Although I love this little thing. They're like, maybe we'll trade out of one.
They're not doing that. They're not doing that.
Stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, maybe we'll trade it 2. What? Dude, not. Like the Texans have already been leapfrogged by the team that would get the. Like, no, stop it. Just stop it. You traded for the first pick, and now you're drafting first overall. You don't have DJ now. Anyway. So I'm not surprised in hindsight. I was surprised in the moment. I was annoyed at the moment, especially because it was Friday at 5:30. Like,
yes.
you couldn't wait to announce that deal like today. Like, come on. Yeah. I think that with respect to the price they paid, they gave up a ton. I would not want to give up that much. However, I feel like it's a fairly reasonable price tag to move from 9 to 1.
Yeah, I didn't think they gave up too much. I thought it was a fair trade.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can work both ways, though, right? Like, I think it was a fair trade in the sense that I thought Chicago got a really nice haul back. You get the 9th overall pick, you pay a really good Panthers pick in the second round this year, and you're probably going to get 2 pretty good picks next year from Carolina as well. If you're Chicago, you're banking on, the same. You're banking on. Like what we saw with the Bears at the trade deadline this year with Chase Claypool. They're like, let's trade our second round pick for Chase Claypool. Surely that can't backfire. We don't have the worst record of football. They did. If you're the Bears, you're banking on Carolina being bad next year, even with a rookie quarterback who they draft first overall. Right. Now, could Carolina win 7, 8, 9 games? Sure. If they don't, then you're going to get probably a top 10, certainly a top 15. So I think that's smart on Chicago's part. Carolina's running a risk, but they are also saying, and this is where the messaging gets a little confusing. They're like, we made like 3 of these guys. It's like, dude, you don't trade to 1 because you like 3 guys. You trade to 1 because you're somebody you love.
Trade to 3 if you like 3 of these guys.
Correct. If you like, and 3 was tradable. You could add it to 3 because the Cardinals would have been more than willing to move out of that 3 spot, I think.
Absolutely.
And you leapfrog the Colts, who then would be forced to trade with the Bears if they wanted to be guaranteed to get somebody. And then you still, if you like 3 guys, I mean, I'm not Count Chocula or whoever, but 1, 2, 3 or whatever. I guess that's not Count Chocula. Anyway.
It's just the count. It's just the count. Yeah, Count Chocula is a completely different thing. But I understood. I watched a lot of Sesame Street as a kid. Will Brinson, here's the thing. What I would have done, and I said this last week, stay at 9. One of them is going to be available at 9. And if they're not, oh well. If draft Hendon Hooker in the second round, if you desperately need to get a quarterback out of this draft, that's what I would have done. Because to me, and this is the Bears, I think the Bears are going to be drafting a quarterback next year. And I think they believe that they're going to be drafting a quarterback next year. But if the Bears really needed a quarterback, they had the first pick this year. They could have taken one if anybody was screaming at them to take them.
The other thing that the Panthers could have done, and this would be my preferred method, especially when you have a GM like Scott Fitterer, who has done a very good job of trading on the clock, is sit at 9, let everything else play out in front of you.
Yeah.
See what the Colts do. Do the Colts trade to 1? Do the Texans trade up a spot? Do the Texans even take a quarterback? Everyone's assuming the Texans are going to take a quarterback, and the Colts will take a quarterback. I think the Colts probably will take one because Jim Irsay is breathing down Chris Ballard's neck.
Yeah.
But he was never trading up to 1. He doesn't unless Irsay made him. And so sit on the clock at 9 and see what happens. And then use less resources to move up to 3 or to move up to 5. And if you don't get one of these 3 quarterbacks, oh well, come back and get what's his name from Carolina or
what Drake made the following year.
Yeah, Drake May or Caleb Williams. Sorry, I didn't mean to. What's his name? Hey, I just completely forgot his name.
It's totally understandable. Here's the thing. I actually think the Panthers fans get a win here because they haven't gotten a lot of wins, obviously, on the football field in the Matt Rule era and at the end of the Ron Rivera era. They haven't gotten a lot of wins there. So they don't have too many wins. They get a win here because they get some excitement and hope leading into the draft.
Correct.
But in the grand scheme of things, and
ain't gonna get a win next year.
Probably not. And in the grand scheme of things, even though you hate trading away your only credible pass catcher because they don't have one at tight end, they don't have another one at wide receiver, and they don't have a running back out of the backfield that catches the ball. So other than that, like they're bringing in a rookie quarterback, and they must surround him with.
That was the play, Mrs. Lincoln.
Right, 7 options. You guys got a lot of work to do to make it work for a rookie quarterback who is, I hope isn't going to be expected to play, but isn't the first overall pick at quarterback almost always getting on the field?
You're playing if you're drafted first overall, unless it's like an Anthony Richardson situation where they bring in and Jacoby Brissett, who I mentioned several times, makes a ton of sense for the Panthers. Right. It's just like even if he just starts the first 3 games, or even if he doesn't start, just a guy who's a veteran. Anyway, he's been mentioned with the Buccaneers today as well during the early stretch of legal tampering. But Anthony Richardson, I think I saw somewhere that like he's still in play at number 1. If you trade all that up to go to number 1 to draft Anthony Richardson, and your plan is not to play him for the first year, look, if the plan works, the plan works. But that to me is a questionable process. And even if you give all that up to go get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, they got to be the guy, and you don't have a lot around them to help them be the guy. It's like I don't think Sam, and this is not a knock on Sam Darnold. I just think so. I always like to compare Sam Darnold's situation with the Jets versus Josh Allen with the Bills. The Bills took their time and built out an infrastructure with an offensive line and weapons, and then dropped Josh Allen in, and then added Stephon Diggs to try and elevate his play, and it did. It worked really well. The Jets were like, quarterback, let's go. And that's what I'm a little worried that the Panthers might be doing here, is saying like, quarterback, let's get him and let's go. It's like, well, and they have built up the offensive line, and it is better than it was 2 years ago. Yeah, it should be better next year. But this is not like the Panthers aren't a quarterback away, and they just traded a bunch of picks as if they were a quarterback away.
I 100% agree with that. Again, I think the only winner here are fans because they get some excitement, but of course there's a level of skepticism because I think that, and they're justified, they're wondering how they're going to screw this up. And it ain't that hard to screw up picking a quarterback in the first round, especially among 4, and every single one of them has a pretty big question mark. I think Bryce Young's the best quarterback, but he's also the smallest and most likely to break in half if he gets sat on by Aaron Donald. Will Brinson, senior NFL writer, CBSSports.com, Pick 6 podcast moderator. Sir, I'm sure there will be an emergency pod coming up later today because it is the legal tampering period, and it should be fun.
I actually had to turn down an invitation to the NIT because of all the emergency podcasts that could be coming up. So
that's fantastic. Thank you, Will.